Okay, I have started the recording. Um, so yeah, welcome to the planning session for figuring out what you guys want to do. As sort of a recap, a terrifying spell has been cast across the entire city, causing everyone to be paralyzed, to sleep in their beds, while their souls are slowly being drained away for some nefarious magical purpose. Along the way to the safe zone at the university, you guys encountered some mysterious golems made out of bits of city that were aggressive, but you had a Gallista there, and so with a little bit of bardic help, she managed to smash the golem to pieces that was threatening you, and you guys all ran past. But now, from the safety of the university, it's been observed that more of them have formed, and in various shapes and forms. But the spell is not impenetrable. They have identified roughly where the spell is being cast from, but the spell is currently surrounded by a protective shield that is preventing Delterra from teleporting in to reverse the spell. She has insisted it's important the spell be reversed, not simply dispelled, as if it's dispelled, then the people will not get back the portion of their souls that's already been drained away. So, what she would like is for 3 of the 4 pillars of this spell to be deactivated. And these pillars are locations in the city where some kind of magical device has been set up to help propagate and make the spell operational. One of them represents the element of lightning, and this one is somewhere in the train yard in the northwestern quadrant of the city. One of them represents the element of radiance, which is in the on the top of a signaling tower that is in the Crimson Guard barracks in the northeastern quadrant of the city. In the sort of central eastern to southeastern area of the city where the palace is, there is an element of gold, presumably within the palace vaults of the treasury that runs the city. And a fourth one, the element of steam, is in the sort of central south harbor area, actually out in the water. Underwater, in fact. There's some kind of volcanic steam vent. Each of these represents its own sort of different problem. For example, the element of lightning is in the train yard, and recently arrived in the train yard are the Petrish, who no doubt think that something very strange is going on, are probably in a defensive posture, and will need some diplomacy to get through them, unless you wanted to try and just go to war against them. But it's very likely, actually, that a diplomatic option may cause them to offer their services to help fight against whatever these weird golem creatures are. So that's a potentially diplomatic option. None of the options are non-combat, but all of them are sort of combat plus something. For example, the gold vault, there's a giant, like, taller than buildings version of one of these golems, some kind of kaiju monster city golem made of city stuff, that's fighting some kind of warrior down there. But once you get past that, it's probably mostly going to be a thievery exercise, as all the people with keys are going to have been disabled and probably aren't even in the office or at work. So getting past locks and traps and such to access the vault would be an important skill there. Of course, the steam one would require an underwater team. You do have Pavan available to make water-breathing potions, but having some experience and ability in swimming is probably very helpful, because a golem made out of city stuff is not going to have a problem operating underwater. It might be slower, but yeah, there'll be some underwater combat maybe involved there. And then, of course, at the tower and the Crimson Guard, just by spying on it, you've observed that there are a numerous number of these golems that have learned how to fly by making themselves out of the bits of tent and awning from various market stalls. There are flying versions of these goblins circling the tower, protecting it. So that is probably an extra combat-y environment there. The tower itself makes for a naturally defensible position, which will make it exceptionally difficult to attack. So it would be, yeah. If you have a team that's combat dedicated, that would be the place to send them. So with those 4 options, diplomacy, extra combat, thievery, and underwater combat, which 3 do you guys want to engage in? Oh, and I'm going to do a scene about this later when Ed is here and we're ready to go off. But you guys are all going to get, well, not all of you. You're going to get some ability to communicate with each other. I guess you might as well do this now. We'll catch that up. Delterra is going to give all of the kids that know how to do scholastic spellcasting, is going to give them all access to a book to copy into your own spell books with the spell Whisper. It's a first circle spell, and you can... it's 1 tax, and you can send a message to anyone, anywhere. Hey, you two. Nope. Nope. Sorry, some cats are fighting here. Okay. All taken care of. So you guys all, you have access to Whisper as a spell that you can put into your spell books for the purposes of co-communicating while you're off adventuring.
I'm curious, is there anyone in the city that we think might know, like Delterra might know a little bit more that we might want to rescue to bring back here to increase our chances of succeeding in these areas?
So that brings up an excellent question, because Elros can, by keeping the palm of his hand on somebody, can bring an adult safely through the soul draining spell. All of you kids have your bracelets that are protecting you, but you can't take them off to share with somebody. But Elros can trick the bracelet into thinking that there's another person that's part of the protective aura. So choosing who that will be could be important. And if you don't bring anybody with you, that means you could potentially make use of somebody you find along the way. Now, Galista 100% believes that you're going to take her with you because she is a hero and it's dangerous and heroes go into danger. So Galista is ordering around the scholars and Coddle, because you guys rescued Coddle, would be helping out, as ordering them to convert a backpack into a kind of saddle so that you can ride her into combat to keep her safe from the spell. But you don't necessarily have to go that route. It's up to you. As far as people that Delterra knows that would be of use, she knows numerous members of the Crimson Guard that are able fighters. She knows the king, although she suspects that the king is already currently engaged.
Okay, and because this, do we know what kind of stuff would this, like? What would be the end game of this spell that whoever this is casting? Like, What are they? What would someone do with all this amount of soul magic to like?
It's a great question, and from a strategic standpoint, Del Terra points out that it's happening really slowly. This isn't like a necromancy spell that just yanks the soul out of somebody and stuffs it in a gem or something. This is like, it's taking it a really long time. It's maybe gotten like up to like 3% of everyone's souls out so far. Um, so the amount of time it's taking indicates this is not a high power spell. I mean, it's high enough power that's affecting a whole city, but they clearly had to make some sacrifices. They're doing this on a budget. And they chose whole city instead of do it quickly. So her initial thought is, this is a prelude to invasion. They're trying to disable the city to make us weak so that they can invade. She thinks it's Apthian. But she's been in contact since like 4 a.m. with agents in Anar and Talus, and just tracking like where enemy armies are. Nobody seems to be coming. There doesn't seem to be any flying pyramids on the way. It seems like this is either an isolated incident or it's related to something that's outside of what she can tell.
And she said that she knows that where exactly to teleport to. So where exactly is the spell being cast?
The spell is being cast from a cave underneath the roughly the center of the city, near the markets. It is a place where all of you have been before. You guys chased the troll down there when you were trying to reunite Sappers with the other part of his being.
We have a couple people that have had contact with Sappers before. You think that like favors? You think that someone might want to contact Sappers since they're the one that created the bracelets to help us?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, someone would want to. Unfortunately, Sappers is not responding.
What do you think Sappers might be doing the spell?
We already identified that last time, I think. I analyzed the bracelets. I did the what did I do?
You used identify, which is
I used identify. Yeah. So, I was able to see that the reason the bracelets are able to block this is because they were made to block this specifically, meaning the person who made the bracelets to block this also is using the spell to
or do that the spell was coming.
Or that, yeah, but
and trying to protect us.
That's our current, I think, direction.
Sappers either is doing the spell or do that the spell was coming. One of the two.
And didn't tell us, which I feel like pushes toward him doing it, but also it could be.
But prepared you for it, but didn't prepare Miss Mabel for it.
Yeah. Didn't we also have a spell that was help us detect the troll before? Wouldn't we be able to use it to detect where Sappers is, since Sappers is now the troll?
You do. Although
we might be able to confirm exactly where they are.
If you wanted to, you could you could cast the spell. I forget exactly what we called it, but we did have the character's name in it.
I want to say it was Zara.
Oh, it was probably Zara. Zara's Bloodhound.
That's the one.
Yep. Zara can definitely try casting that if you'd like.
All right. And I guess you'll use the bracelet as the item that you have it sniff, yeah?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Alrighty. Is this a memorized spell, or is this one you have to roll for? I guess you have time, so yeah.
I'm new to the memorization thing. Would that imply that pre-planning, like you have to memorize like specific spells?
Yeah, what you do is you prepare your body to have the spell already pre-cast. but like the last word that makes it trigger hasn't been said yet, which means that it's already ready to go. The hard part's been done, and you just snap your fingers and the spell happens with no roll necessary. You have plenty of time here to prepare and do this carefully, so I'm not going to make you roll for it. You will have to tax your spell casting, which you're not going to have an opportunity to rest. So be careful with your taxes as you go forward here. But yes, if you want to cast that, you may.
Mm. I also have esoteric channeling.
Oh, that is powerful.
So wouldn't I be able to kind of roll to maybe pay the tax? Or absorb the tax?
Yes.
Let me see what I would be able to roll for that.
If you have a thaumaturgy that does not require you to make a test, such as esoteric memorization, you can optionally make one anyway against the rank of the power. Failure simply means you must pay the regular cost.
Got it. Yep, and the power is a rank 1, so then basically I can roll 1 dice. We'll assume I memorize the spell, and then roll 1 dice to see if I don't pay a tax.
And if you get 2 successes, then you don't have to pay a tax.
So, just heads up to the group before I do this. Zara is probably one of my characters that can handle, like, more combat-y stuff, potentially, or at least has some good stuff for that. So, this will kind of dampen that, potentially, if she gets taxed, but not by way too much.
We could also, a couple of us could also just give you some extra to tax with.
Yeah,
But then you have to tax in order to do that.
Yeah, but we also have staffs. Some of us have staffs and stuff that we can tax to keep our characters fresh.
Yeah, I don't have one for Zara yet. Okay. Yeah, well, basically just was letting you know that will be the case, but we can always deal with that when we get to it, and maybe deal with tax absorption later once it becomes a problem. Would I guess that probably with esoteric channeling, you can't necessarily add pips to that roll. Or is it like any other roll and you could add pips to it?
I would need to know why the equipment is considered useful to the roll. With any roll, you may use equipment if it is useful for the activity.
Is Sapper's elemental energy?
That is an interesting question.
I'm asking because I don't actually remember how, but Zara has elemental energy sense quality 2, and I'm wondering if that could be applied here.
Probably not.
Okay. And then the only other thought I had was that the bangle, but I don't know if that even has a quality to it, so, or if it would even apply in this scenario.
It does, but no, it wouldn't apply in this case.
Cool. Okay. Then I will
actually. If what you're using your elemental sense for is for casting the spell, having nothing to do with looking for sappers, you're just using it to channel the energy, then that would make sense for esoteric channeling, because you personally channel elements.
Yes. Wonderful. Which actually makes that very useful, because basically then anytime I'm channeling my energies, then I can potentially apply that tip to it.
Yeah. Which is good, because you're going to find very few other opportunities to use that.
Yeah, definitely. This will be the first time I've used it. All right. I will make a roll, and Zara will try out... Well, I guess no matter what, the Bloodhound spell will succeed, and then it's just a matter of if I pay the tax.
Wait, you only rolled 1 die?
I believe according to esoteric channeling that you roll to the power of the spell, which I have noted that Zara's Bloodhound is rank 1.
No, it's whenever you make a test to manifest a power, you may bid dice from your margin of success.
But if I memorize the power...
If you memorize the power, you can make a roll against the rank, not a roll of the rank of power, a roll against the rank of the power. Meaning your target that you need to beat is the rank of the power. So it's a level 1 power, so you need to beat a 1. So, okay.
So I could have rolled my arcane potential, basically.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Because there's no way that you would get 2 successes if you only roll 1 die. And what you want is you want to have excess successes beyond merely a success. What esoteric channeling, what it reads is, whenever you make a test to manifest a power, you may bid dice from your margin of success to partially or completely pay for the cost of the power. So if your target number is 1 success and you roll 2 successes, then the first success makes the spell happen, and the second success is an extra bonus that you can use to pay for casting the power through esoteric channeling. And then we have the special rule: if you're using something where you don't technically have to roll, you still get to roll anyway. It's just that if you fail the roll, you don't fail the spell. Does that make sense?
Yep. Yeah, I just had read that wrong, so I thought I could only roll the rank of the power. But it sounds like, yeah. So esoteric memorization means you just pay the cost, but you auto-succeed. Then channeling, I can roll my full potential and any additional dice above the success.
Yeah, any additional successes above and beyond what's needed to make the spell happen.
Which is 0 if it's memorized. Or I guess it's 1.
Yeah, it's why you're making the roll against the rank of the power.
Yeah, so basically it's a rank 1 spell. I have 3 arcane. I roll 3 dice. If I get at least 1 success, then it's free.
No, you need 2 successes to make it free.
Why would that be if it says a memorized
Only
spell?
one is memorized, though, right?
Yeah, it's a memorized spell. So when I'm reading the esoteric memorization, it says once memorized, spells can be cast anytime by paying half their cost rounded up. It's rank 1, so the cost is 1. Half rounded up is 1. So I only need 1 success.
All right, so that is right. You have part of what's correct here. Esoteric channeling isn't about succeeding; it's about over-succeeding. So if you only get 1 success on your roll, right? Then yes, that is the rank of the power was 1, and so you've gone over it by 0. So you get 0 extra points to use to pay for tax. I'll read it again here. Whenever you make a test to manifest a power, you may bid dice from your margin of success to partially or completely pay for the cost of the power. Your margin of success. Not the actual success point, but your margin beyond that.
Isn't the cost of memorization technically 0, though?
That's where I'm having the trouble, because I assumed the cost would be 0.
And that's why Ed wrote in a little special rule here. Right? If you have a thaumaturgy that doesn't require you to make such a test, such as esoteric memorization, you may optionally make one anyway against the rank of the power. Failure simply meaning you must pay the regular cost.
So, but that part, you can optionally make one anyway against the rank of the power, makes me think the rank of the power is 1, thus you only need 1 success.
Well, what we're doing is we're using the rank of the power to be the marker that indicates like how far above success. So let's hypothetically go for a rank 5 spell, and that will make this a little more clear. If you're casting a rank 5 spell, you're going to need to tax 5 points of tax to cast the spell, right?
But if you have memorization, then you tax 3.
Right. Now you can, if you don't have memorization, then you're just rolling to see if you can cast it at all. And at 5, you can cast it. But with esoteric channeling, if you rolled 7 successes, then what you would do is you would take that margin of success, which is 2 above what you needed, and you could use those to pay for part of the power. So instead of paying 5, you pay 3. Right? Now, let's say hypothetically, though, you have esoteric memorization. So now your cost has gone from 5 down to 3, right? That's awesome. But also, you have esoteric channeling. So when you go to roll to see if you get extra dice from esoteric channeling, you're not rolling against 3. You're rolling against the rank of the power, which is 5. And so if you rolled 7, then you would have a margin of success of 2 against that rank of the power, which would pay for 2 of the cost, which means you would, at that point, only have to pay 1 tax, because 2 of it would be covered by that margin from esoteric channeling, and it was only 3 because of memorization. Does memorization really cut it in half?
The last line mentions that it does. Half the cost rounded up.
That's awesome. That is way more powerful than the first version of this.
Yeah, that's not how that used to work.
It is not how that used to work at all, and I'm glad it does. That makes Wizards a lot stronger.
It makes memorization worth it. Before it was a bonus, I understood, but
Yes, the downside of memorization is you have to list out what your spells are going to be ahead of time, but that's one hell of an upside right there. Because that means you'll have some leeway, like you can get your memorized spells, but then also you've got a little bit of extra attacks you can use for improvising stuff. Anyway, what I need to see to find out what you cast is 2 more dice to roll with whatever extra pips you had left over. Okay. Or
I just re-rolled.
That's fine. So there you go. 2 successes. So your first success reaches the success point, and then your margin of success, what you did above and beyond the success, was 1. And you can use that margin of success to pay for it. So you cast the spell for free, and you find out that Sappers is indeed underneath the marketplace in the cavern.
Excellent. All right. Well, all that makes a lot more sense. Thanks for explaining that. I don't know why. Every time I kept reading that, I was thinking it would be, it would just be 1.
Hopefully the new version will be a little clearer in the math of it. This has been layers upon layers of rewrites and rewrites. So it's ever a work in progress.
Yeah, I haven't read it yet, but esoteric memorization has like an example, so that could have maybe helped too in the wiki, just kind of giving a realistic example.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, that's awesome. More intel.
Yeah, I just also looked at improvisation. Also, like if you have advantage, your TN is reduced by half.
Your what? Oh, the threshold?
Yeah, threshold. Your target number, or whatever. Yeah.
Nice. That's good to know. I didn't realize that. Is that for esoteric channeling or what?
Improvisation. The other thing instead of.
Instead of memorization, if you go improvisation,
Oh, cool.
then you can pay one potential to roll your dice against half the difficulty.
Well, that was awesome. That was the first time. This is Zara's build coming to fruition because I was just wanting her to be able to randomly cast things like light or whatever, just to like, just be walking around as a mage in the world.
And with 3 dice being rolled on that, on average, most of your first circle spells are going to be free.
Yeah, that's why I leveled that up. Hell yeah. So do we want to kind of think about maybe who might be a good... Well, I guess first we need to figure out which of the 3 pillars we plan on going to potentially, and then figure out who we want to go to it.
Also, we need to find out the information we get from Bloodhound as well.
Oh, well, I mean, is there more information to get than what we just learned?
Have we learned anything yet?
Yep.
I must have missed it.
We've had confirmed sappers is where the spell is coming from.
Ah, okay. I don't know how I missed that.
There was a lot of rule talk that led up to it, but
I kind of snuck it in at the end there. Yeah, Sappers is down underneath the marketplace, where this spell is being cast from. Unfortunately, some kind of magic shielding as part of the spell is preventing direct teleport into it, and Delterra says even if we were to walk down there, the spell wouldn't let us through. We need to shut down 3 of the 4 to weaken the spell enough so that it doesn't go out completely, but it can no longer protect itself from my teleports. I'll be able to hack into it and then reverse the spell before we shut down the last piece. Once the spell's reversed, it will be trivial to go out and shut down the last piece. So, it's, yeah. The hard part, the part we're sending you kids out to do, is to take out any 3 of the 4 pillars.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, maybe we don't know this yet, but if we're only taking out 3 of the pillars, will we eventually have to take out the 4th pillar?
Nope.
Okay.
Because once the spell is reversed, then everybody will be up, and they can send soldiers and professionals and adults to go deal with the 4th one.
The issue right now is all the professionals and adults are either cat dog or trapped in the shield.
Right. If they leave the shield of the university, then they're immediately subject to the spell and fall to the ground twitching and unable to act.
So I know that the initial thing would be to have Araxi want to go with an underwater team and do the underwater one, but I actually think Araxi would be more useful as part of the combat one. Which makes me actually think that maybe the underwater one's the one we skip.
I will say I've started to map out where my characters would go, and I don't have any suitable ones for underwater unless, of course, we can always buy potions, but...
I think Pava would just give them to us.
Yeah. Yeah, he's
This is kind of a big deal.
He's like, oh, you don't have enough money? That's all right. We'll just let the city slowly die.
Even in this excessive capitalistic dystopia, like, I think there's a bar that...
Pavin is not part of the capitalist dystopia as
True.
well. Pavin is technically a diplomat. So Pavin has no problem as a act of friendship with a foreign power, providing said foreign power with the tools needed to defend itself in this time of alliances and mutual protection.
The only reason and the only way I would want to do water is if we consider, or I can roll or whatever, for Mina's ship to be partially built.
Oh yeah, Mina's ship is built, 100%.
which means it should have weaponry on it. And then she has weaponry on a boat above water, helping underwater.
Yeah. You tell me if it's a submersible or not, but yeah, I think it's a surface one, and yes, you would have access to your weaponry.
That doesn't mean that some of the weapons aren't submersed.
You tell me, your character, so your ship, your design.
I'm trying to find. I know I talked through the whole thing, and I'm trying to find it. I'm gonna probably have to go rewatch the session.
Just have Wallpy walk up to it and decide it has a submarine now.
Oh yeah, I have not put any of these sessions on to the internet in any way, shape, or form yet. I'm going to, but it's a big project to set up, so I'm gonna probably space it out and do like a couple episodes a week or something.
Yeah. Also, I'm curious exactly how are you taking out these quote unquote pillars? Like, what is do we have like some kind of device that we're getting, or are we just like gonna smack? We're gonna find something and hopefully smack something until it stops working.
You're right to call them quote unquote pillars because that term is coming from Henri's dream, where Henri viewed giant pillars rising up out of the city as the way that Inui was perceiving the presence of this magic. But in reality, that's just a word, just a label to ascribe to them. What they actually are is some kind of magical device that you may or may not have even seen yet. And if you have seen it, you don't know that you saw it.
So here's the thing I've been wondering. Obviously, we got a view from the top pole, but could Wallpy turn into a falcon and just make a quick lap around the city? Because like falcons fly really fast.
I'll allow that.
I assume that would still be Wallpy's like perception investigation that I'm rolling rather than a falcon's perception investigation because it's still Wallpy's consciousness behind it.
If you're going to be checking out all 4 locations, then give me 4 of those rolls and tell me which one is which.
Right. I feel like though, even though it's like I should have a boost to my perception, like maybe pips or something from being a falcon. I don't know.
I will allow you to add your druidic dice.
Okay, that actually makes a lot of sense. All right, so these are. And then. Yeah, I don't think I get anything else. No, because I don't have my staff like out or anything. Like I can't make use of that.
But
so
as you shapeshift into the falcon, the bracelet
kind of
the bracelet adapts to your little bird.
All right. So which ones? So there's 4 pillars. I'm just going to start with this C1 and like warp around, however that is, like where I come back to in a loop, essentially.
Okay.
So this is the C1, and then I don't quite know what's next based off the. I'm pulling a blank on the word here, like layout of the city, I guess.
Sure. Actually, let's create a document to sketch out the layout of the city. How did I do that before? I did something for like the house, right?
Google has some sort of drawings thing.
Yeah, the Google Draw.
Yes. So I'll do a quick Google Drawings in the Maps folder. Is one of these tools just a freehand scribble? Yeah, there we go.
I'm surprised I don't have anything to give myself fifths with this. But I don't.
It's hard when you're a bird.
How do I pick the color of my scribble?
Yeah, it looks like once you've drawn it, you can select the color and it uses that color from then on. That hole there, that's the big hole in the middle of the city.
It's not really big enough for me to put a marker on the map, but the orphanage is roughly here.
Okay, so Harbor, Palace, Crimson Barracks, and Rail Yard.
Yeah, that's probably what the path Whoppy will take. So I will
Okay,
make the
so your first
roll
roll then is for the harbor.
Harbor.
2 successes. So the harbor is unfortunately rather obscured by a large amount of steam that is coming up from the steam vent. So you're not able to see down into the water very clearly. At least not
Alright.
with only 2 successes.
That's for the palace.
3 successes there. So you do see guards outside the palace that are just collapsed on the ground. The palace does have 24-hour security, and they are unconscious. But there's a guy who's not unconscious, glowing with golden light and fighting a giant kaiju golem monster. He's like, the monster's swinging his sword, and he's just running up the sword, smacking at it, trying to find weak spots, not having a great deal of success, but also apparently not tiring or wearing out for any reason.
So Whoppy's hero happens to be Violent. Is this Violent?
It is absolutely Violent.
Yeah.
He's ditched his ceremonial plate mail and is just wearing like loose leathers for mobility. He still has the crown on his head, but it's like strapped on so it won't fall off. And otherwise, he's got a giant greatsword, and he's just going ham on this thing.
Yeah. Okay. Barracks.
Oh, details about the barracks. Okay. So with your sharp vision, you can see that there are groups of Crimson Guard that are clustered up using the magical shields to protect themselves. They seem to be gathered like really tightly in a bunch due to limited numbers of the little marbles. And as you're watching, one of the groups runs out of energy on their marbles, the shield breaks, and all of them collapse in a pile. There's 2 other groups that are there, like desperately keeping their shields fed, but you're not sure how much longer they'll be able to hold out, and they can't really accomplish anything in that fashion. They're just all kind of stuffed together in groups. The tower itself is just crawling with these creatures made out of like bits of like metal poles from setting up tents in the marketplace, and they've turned them into like wings, with the flaps of the tents becoming these aerial propulsion systems that are keeping them in the sky. And they're flying up and like clinging to the side of the barracks with claws made out of shards of broken glass bottles and bits of scrap and metal.
So they're kind of like more gliders than.
More glide. You do not think that they could sustain a hover. You think they're much like a falcon. Actually, they do like dive at swoop attacks, and that seems to be one of the things that the Crimson soldiers that are clustered up together are clustered up to fight against. But they can't really go into formations without leaving the bubble, and they don't have enough marbles to maintain the bubbles.
And then the last one is the rail yard. And if this keeps within history, this will be 5 success. It is not.
There's a bunch of golems all over the rail yard, but you can't see what's going on. Whatever's happening is being obscured inside the buildings, as the rail yard is surrounded by giant warehouses, and your eyes can pierce many things, but they cannot pierce stone. Or brick or metal. Yeah.
And Whoppy will return to the So you basically, I guess there would be an open window. If there is an open window, Wompy flies through the open window.
Sure.
Okay. Wompy flies through the open window, like lands on a table, turns back into Wompy, and says, "Okay, Wompy can't see in a harbor because lots of steam, very difficult from the sky, or the rail yard, too many buildings. But the Biolithin, he's alive and fighting. Fighting one of those big golem things. It seems to be a draw right now, but probably could use some support at some point soon."
Diltera
And-
nods and says, I had a feeling that the wards already around him would keep him safe.
Everybody else is out. It's just Biolithin. But, and then the Crimson Guard, some of them are alive using their shields, but they need a marble delivery fast if they're not going to collapse. And there's like these big, like, half-flying things that kind of like glide and like they gain a little height but not a lot. And they've got big claws. They can like grab buildings and stuff.
Some of the student Cam is here, and Cam says, "Okay, the marbles thing is going to be a little bit of a problem because we don't use those here. The best supply of those marbles would be south of the palace in the Applied Thaumaturgy Guild."
Well,
So we're wizards. We have no need
Yeah.
of those things.
well, they technically can get into the Applied Thaumaturgy Guild.
Jackson, if you're back, Bax would know that the marbles, each marble gives that shield about 5 minutes of protection. It seems like this whole thing started around like 3 a.m., so they must have gone through most of the barracks' supply at this point. It would take a serious shipment if you were to get them back up and running. Essentially, it seems like that bringing them marbles might not be as effective as ending the spell.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like any information we learn to kind of help the people necessarily isn't really helpful. It's assessing the zone and whether the things are a problem. If Biolithin is distracting the kaiju, that means we might be able to get around and do shit. If the Crimson Guards are there, they don't really do anything. And we know nothing about which one? The rail yard?
Nothing about the rail yard, it's just that there's a lot of steam in the harbor.
Yeah. So each of the quote unquote devices are they emitting what their things are?
The Slayer says, yes, that is how I was able to get a shield up around the university. Is from Anre's vision, I figured out what to look for, and when I found those signature elements in those locations, I was able to figure out what they were doing and get a shield in place really just seconds before the spell went off.
So is it possible we could bring something to be able to like hone, like you weren't in the area, so you wouldn't be able to detect it, but if we were to bring someone else to detect the certain elements, we might be able to hone into the actual devices themselves if we're in the area.
Those are nods. Yeah, I mean, when you find them, they should be fairly obvious. The devices will be something that is in some way attached to a source of that type of energy. So, for example, on the Crimson Barracks, the object that is storing light for their signaling thing will probably have something stuck onto it that is sapping that energy and using it to power the spell. Does that sound familiar to anyone who was recently at the Crimson Barracks?
Remember now.
There was the
We know it's
miller
the
was
tower.
a part of something for that tower.
We know
I
the
did-
tower. The tower is doing light. So at the top of the tower.
Yeah, there's the light the house fixture thing that the miller was fixing.
Yes. And he did have a device that was attached to it. He said it was something that was loaned to him by the Applied Thaumaturgy Guild.
I guess so. I guess we can describe the device. Do you think that might potentially be used to do this thing?
Your description of it is something that seems plausible.
Where is the miller? Can someone be able to contact him?
At a guess, he's probably unconscious in his bed.
Okay, I think it's another thing where it's like that's not. We have an idea of what the thing is, and we know where. We know where because we had some information in contact with it. So like the miller wouldn't necessarily help. We just need to get. If we were going to go to the barracks, we go to that tower. And the top of the tower will have a device.
Since I don't think I'm going to need my notes anytime soon, I'm going to go ahead and screen share the map into the video here. Just so it can be seen what we're looking at.
Yeah. Who's here had interactions with the Petrish, and who would know the best to negotiate with them?
I don't think any of your characters have had interactions with the Petrish.
Or I mean, like anyone, like any of the adults that might give us tips on how to because we've never met them before, so we don't want to like.
Delterra has met them. Actually, has gone on adventures with Petrish characters. She has a very positive view of them. She says they're greatly misunderstood. A lot of people think that they're just machines, and they are not. They're people too, but they're very different in the way that they see the world. So they have other machines that are not people, that help the machines that are people. But they don't view those other machines the way we view machines. They view those machines the way we would view pets, like a horse or a dog, right? To them, they're creatures to be cared for, and they get really upset if you treat them like machines. So I once helped a Petrish recover a large number of these non-people, non-sentient Petrish, and it was like watching someone reunited with their pet dog after a long absence. Like they were very caring and emotional about them. So it's yeah. And even though these creatures are literally clockwork, like But they treat their clockwork creatures as something as emotionally connected as as any ranger would be to their hunting hounds.
Okay, so there's something emotionally we can if we treat them with emotions and stuff that.
Yes, the idea that they are cold, emotionless machines is a complete fabrication by bigots that were trying to run them out of the city. You may find their naming conventions a bit odd. If you encounter one that has a number, those are the original Petrish. The first batch were all numbered. But the creator of them was assassinated. So there never was a second batch. So all of the Petrish after the original numbered set are named after the glitch that showed that they were deserving of sentience. The Petrish worship randomness, and when a random malfunction causes a positive result, that is a holy thing to them. And so they will reward the machine by upgrading it to be sentient and to become a person. And those machines are then named after the random error that afforded them that honor. I will say, if you get up there and you find the Petrish in charge is Five, please say hello for me. Because it has been quite some time since Five and I had a good chat. Five learned magic. It was quite a fun engagement. A bit violent, all the things that happened. This was in Half-Elven. We had to go down there for... as I said, to retrieve Five's underlings, I guess? Pets? Whatever the appropriate word would be. And in the process, the mining cooperative set off a large number of explosions. You may have seen that there has been quite a lot of charity events to help rebuild Half-Elven, and that's because of that. I was there during that event.
All right.
So I think that
a lot of the civic service protection spells and rescuing people spells were developed specifically because of that incident to prevent a repeat of that. Sorry, you were saying?
I say, so basically we just need to send our best team of diplomats to that one. Ideally, who are not just going to keel over and die at a sneeze.
She says, oh, yes, those of you who are good at talking should definitely go. As long as you can get to them safely and talk to them, if you can get them on our side and helping, they are powerful allies. In a fight, they're very, very dangerous. So, yeah, absolutely. Don't antagonize them, please. The city could do with more allies right now.
Yeah, so it sounds like the barracks is we know what to look for already. So that's I think just a guarantee on whoever we can send to the barracks makes the most sense because we know what we're looking for. So I feel like that's one, and then we need to pick the other ones.
I would say that the Petra at the rail yard and the palace are probably the best other option.
Yeah. It's not like I totally don't want to be on the. It's not like I totally want to be on the back of Glista as she helps with the king fight a kaiju.
You do have a suspicion that if you take Gallista anywhere within sight of the kaiju, Gallista's going to try and fight the kaiju. But Gallista, especially if backed up by a bard, Gallista is a very powerful ally.
Yeah, and apparently I don't know how much time he had left before he was going to pass out for the bard, because I know he was concentrating really hard when we found him.
But now that he's in the safety of Delterra's protective field, he's not needing to concentrate anymore. But Radico is not in a condition to go out there, and you can only keep one person in your protective field at a time. If you try and put a hand on two people, the bracelet gives up and reduces back to just covering you.
Yeah, because I know I know at the what's it called, the gold place. I know that Gluck would probably be the best for that one, since there's a lot of thieving stuff.
Being able to stealth around the kaiju and being able to lockpick and like break into the safe and stuff, that would be very useful. Now, even though Radico's not available, there is another bard. Laika has been training under Radico, and Laika has the abilities, as you guys saw on your way here. Laika was able to empower Gallista. So, if you want to bring Gallista as an asset, the ideal way to do that would be to have Elros keeping Gallista from succumbing to the spell, and Laika supercharging Gallista's attacks.
Yeah. The better question is, if not Gallista, who?
That's a great question. Delterra is out because she is saving her strength to do the teleporting and spell hacking and won't be able to contribute anything. Miss Mabel is here, although she's not really a combatant, but she's very good at talking to people. Though Reggie could probably do about the same job as she does when talking to Petrish. Miss Mabel's only real advantage is lying, and you don't really need to lie in the diplomacy with the Petrish.
Also the situation.
Cam is available if you wanted a spellcaster instead of Gallista. Welcome back.
And Delterra's brother, I forget what he was good at. What was his specialty?
Alteration. He is good at turning things into other things.
Which might help with the alteration creatures that are around the place. Since he's good at alteration, does he have any input on exactly what these golems are? It might be.
He does not. He says, I haven't had an opportunity to examine them, so I'm not sure what's going on with them. It is very strange. I don't know of any spell that does that.
Would you like to come out and examine one?
My curiosity, absolutely, but I think the priority needs to be disabling the spell.
Yes, of course.
So I'm fine with whatever routes we end up going, but I can say that if we don't go water, Mina's going to be essentially useless. If we end up not going water, is there any looseness on having some sort of, what is the term? Like magical property items that she could like artifice something for the route that she ends up going on? Or Just in general.
I will say,
I'll impose some restrictions on what you can do given available materials, but I would not be opposed to you taking a moment. But there's also limits of time, so it can't be something overly elaborate.
I mean, we're at the university. There should be a lot of materials here. That's kind of where I'm poking.
do we need to eliminate the water route? Like maybe we could not go to the train yard or something?
I think it's the worst of our 4 options is the water route. 1, because we'll be subject to potions. 2, because we don't know shit about what's there other than a lot of steam. And
Yeah.
like Araxi could go underwater and be fine, but also like that would take out Araxi's best skills. And I think that might be the case across them. Like we might want Glup doing thieving at the palace.
Well, I was thinking we could go real crazy and like literally send everyone who can't naturally go underwater on the water mission. Get potions. Send like the triplets or something. If we want to. We don't really have to go that route. I just thought it would be kind of cool to take out the boat.
Well, he can naturally go underwater, but yeah.
Yeah, one of the triplets can turn into a frog, right?
Yeah.
Wampi can turn into a frog, Araxi can breathe underwater, Glup can breathe underwater, Shari can breathe underwater. Mina has a boat. A be-weaponed boat, in fact. Cannons on swivels and stuff.
Powered by magic beads.
Yep.
The mystery of it all could be quite fun. But
I mean, story-wise, the water one just sounds fun, but I'm very biased.
Jackie and Kristen are the only players who don't have characters that are specifically designed for water.
Yeah, didn't one of them go? I swear one of them had a character go underwater for when they went
Bax,
to the boat.
they had a
water breathing potion.
Bax just held onto a rock, and yeah.
Yep.
Also, I'm pretty sure undead things don't need to breathe, so Francis can do something.
Very true.
If we went underwater, it'd have to be Wampi, because like crossbow bolts don't work underwater. Like, yeah, they won't get at it. They would just die.
You mean you don't?
Yeah, I think
they don't have their own
Araxi. You were thinking Araxi by default because we were going underwater, but Wampi is a better choice underwater.
Wampi is a significantly better choice. Araxi is significantly better in the air. Araxi would be really good at the Crimson Barracks.
Yeah, frog doesn't equal underwater better. Like, my frog was not better in the water. My frog was way better in the sky, also.
Also, Wampi probably could just solipsism to be able to breathe underwater in the first place.
But that's not really necessary, considering you've got potions and a frog shape. Yeah. But Wampi's nature magic will be... you're closer to nature underwater than you are in the city. The city has its occasional parks, but the underwater is actually a nature environment. It may have a ruined city underneath it, but there's kelp and fishes and all the usual aquatic stuff. Plus, Araxi's got an allergy, so you don't really want her down there anyway.
Allergy only to the mud, so you just have to keep the mud off, but...
Yeah.
The device is buried in the mud.
Oh, fuck.
I'm just trying to figure exactly where to currently to take Elros, because he's a pretty good magic user, and he's the only one that can bring an adult.
Also, Elros, while maintaining the shield on an adult, can still cast spells with his other hand. So just because you're riding on Callista doesn't mean Callista is your weapon. It just means that the two of you go together.
Yeah, that means I can improvise some crazy spells on her.
If you have Glista equipped in your right hand, what do you equip on your left?
I don't know what.
That would be so scary. I mean, come on.
You have Elros has a staff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you Callista on your right hand, your staff in your left hand, and you throw spells, and she fires bow and hits things with spear. And if Leica is there with you, then she hits really goddamn hard with that bow and spear.
We could skip the palace and then go to the barracks, because that's where the combat is, at the barracks.
Yes.
Right.
The barracks, there's no way to avoid combat. There's no alternate route. There's no sneakiness. It's a giant tower in the open sky with a bunch of flying monsters around it.
That's going to be... Bax is going to that for sure. You got a shiny shield and a shiny sword and a head full of dreams.
Because we have a lot of very combat-capable characters now, I think. Does anyone not have a combat-capable character?
I think we all do. The worst thing would be if we sent, like we were just saying, if Aras and Callista went to the barracks, it means Bax shouldn't be going to the barracks. So we end up in a weird, like, we make sure we don't take the wrong person because you had a more combat-ready character, but you completely inhibited someone else.
And it's not like there's not going to be combat anywhere else. Everywhere has combat. The barracks just has a focus on combat.
The barracks is combat plus combat.
Correct.
Bax could be really helpful shielding a diplomat team to get to the Petrish.
So your options are diplomacy plus combat, swimming plus combat, thievery plus combat, and combat plus combat.
Diplomacy combat and combat are the options for Bax. So wherever people want me, I'll do that.
It also could be... don't necessarily have to take Callista straight to the major combat if we bring out all of our best combat characters for that. It's take Callista to maybe a team that isn't so combat capable. But has other skills. Like, we could take Callista to the palace, or we could even just have Callista with just a team of diplomats who have no combat ability whatsoever.
I do also want to point out, just as a sort of suggestion, because the mages have the whisper spell, you might want to make sure there's at least one mage in each party so the parties can communicate with each other.
Smart.
I feel like that one's fairly easy. I think we spread our mages out enough that that might just happen naturally.
Yeah, and more specifically, scholastic mages. Because, like...
Did Wampy learn Whispers on the Wind?
Wampy does it, but Wampy has improvisation.
Okay.
So, I would be shocked if Wampy can't improvise it.
So yeah,
also,
Scholastic Mages plus Wampy.
Also, Wampy probably is going with the other two triplets wherever they go. So... And we have a triplet that it does have it already.
Yeah, Francis is right now my only character that has it. Zara technically could have it, but she would need to get another spell book. She doesn't have room for it right now. So
Cam,
Journey Whiteout?
Cam hands you a quality one, like, notepad, like the kind that, like, investigators write down, scribble notes in.
Awesome. Thank you. Cool. So Zara and Francis have it, but Henri does not.
Now, Henri does have something kind of useful in this planning phase. Unfortunately, it'll cost you attacks to use. you are aware that, generally speaking, the Moon King doesn't give a shit about what's going on in the realm of mortals, and overall has a policy of just not interfering. For example, is not going to be helping with the Aptian War. But you also know that they have, in the past, had beneficial dealings with Delterra. And so you could ask for a favor to get a little bit of information. The Moon King will probably not intervene on your behalf, but will be happy to inject information directly into your brain about something. You can ask a question, basically, and what you're going to get is not going to be an answer. It's going to be a data dump of information about something. It will cost you a composure. So it'll tax your composure by 1. But if you have a question you'd like to posit to the Moon King, under the pretense that you are asking on behalf of efforts to keep the asset Delterra, whom the Moon King interacts with and uses for various tasks, safe from harm from this attack or whatever.
I think that's probably worth a shot, just because any intel we can get helps.
Cool. The areas that you have the least intel about are, well, for sure the underwater part. You have essentially no intel about that. And then you have only verbal intel. You don't have any visual intel on the situation at the rail yard.
Okay. So I think this kind of, before Henri does that, maybe we can kind of come to a consensus on which ones we'd like to do. That way he doesn't waste time on one that we end up not doing.
Yeah, don't burn out your brain on things you don't need to know about. That's a good plan.
Okay. I think the Cryptogar definitely needs to be one. I think that's the one we're most capable of. Like, we definitely, whatever shape that team comes into, that team should be able to handle it. We know where the thing is, presumably. We know what's there. We're basically as prepared for that as we could be already.
I like that one. Yeah.
I do know we have a good team of diplomats. If we send Nest and Reggie there, we have our talking team.
Maybe we go that route and we skip the gold thing? Well, I guess no, never mind. Then we would still skip the water. I guess. Well, I guess we don't necessarily need to skip the water.
But we don't have to go to the railroad, like, just because we have a crack team diplomats. Like, Nest, I know, is definitely usable at the other ones as well. It's just what's best. I don't know what Reggie looks like, and Ed's not here to ask.
Yeah. Also, more the fact that the railroad has potential allies that are not being affected, and they might be able to prevent harm from people, from the monsters that are out there. So we don't know if any of the things are actually attacking anything.
Yeah, it's just getting to them. So we don't know anything about the rail yard to get to them. And that's the information we'd need.
We don't know how much hostilities there are in that area.
But but to that point, or to the earlier point, the diplomats, no offense to them, they aren't necessarily heavily useful in any of the other 3.
Yeah.
I just took a quick look at Reggie's character sheet. Reggie is a badass in conversations, and really doesn't have any dice to roll in combat. No magical abilities whatsoever. Yeah, this is a very focused character.
Like, if we take our thieves and put them in other categories, they can do other things because they have acrobatic capabilities or fighting capabilities, whatever they have. The thieves can do other stuff in other areas, whereas the diplomats can't do things in other places. So it pushes us toward, is the vault the one to drop?
I think that if we could get Reggie to talk to them, particularly if Nest is also there, because Nest has particular ability at appealing to emotions, and they are definitely emotional. The Petrish are definitely emotionally swayable, I guess. I think if we could do that, that's a really good candidate as well. And then it comes to, do we want to have an underwater team or do we want a palace team, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm agreeing. That I think that's why I was trying to push where we shifted. I think it's like between the palace and the underwater. So with that being said, finding information about the underwater seems the most useful, right? Because if we can do something about it, we do it. If we can't, we go palace. But if we find stuff about the palace, it's like it's breaking into shit and getting in there. Like we kind of know that that's what it is because it's gold.
And Tice makes a good point about Glup. Like, sneaking is useful everywhere. Sneaking is useful attacking the tower at the Crimson Barracks. It's like sneaking is going to be omni-useful in all situations.
Sneaking is useful to smuggle, like, non-combat capable characters to diplomats.
100%, yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. And Henri as well, like, he's pretty flexible with other things. Like, thieving is now his side job now that he's a warlock for the Moon King.
The other thing about the railroad is that Nest has a lot of defensive magic. So if our goal is just get to the Petrish, talk to them, and then disable it with their help, just getting there is more important. We don't have to like kill a bunch of things. But yeah, I think we're in agreement that Crimson and Railroad are definitely our candidates. It's just whether we do water or palace. And we know what's at the palace. We don't know what's at the water. So maybe that's what we want Henri to ask.
Cool. I agree. Let's go ahead and do it then. So, Henri, does he actually have to travel to the moon, or now that he's a warlock, can he just commune with him?
Warlock, you can just do it in your head.
Great. So Henri will go to some sort of quiet, dark spot somewhere and sit down, just in case, in case he passes out. And
he's gonna cry.
Yeah.
I imagine you're doing this all at like a bathroom because that's the only place that's quiet right now.
Yeah, probably. Just goes to the bathroom, sits in the bathtub, and starts to commune with the Moon King.
So the Moon King is very much like a creature about different types of bindings, and has, for example, bound itself to the moon, and flows through those chains. How does Henri visualize Henri's connection to the Moon King in that context? Is there a chain that goes from Henri to the Moon King, some ethereal, magical structure?
Yeah, I think so. But I think he'll like visualize it more as just a stream of like moonlight or something like that.
Okay. Is it attached to any part of your person? Or like does it go straight into your head? Is it like wrapped around your hand like a rope that you're gripping?
I think maybe through his eyes. So like his eyes open and then there's just like the light is connecting with both of his eyes.
Okay, cool. So yeah, what is it that you are asking the Moon King?
All right, so as you know, Delterra is a very important person to you and to me, and currently we're experiencing quite a bit of a dangerous situation, and we really think that everyone, including Delterra's life, is at risk right now in the city of Celebre, and we think we know how to stop it, but we need some help. We need some information. There's an area underwater nearby off of the coast, I guess. I'm assuming it's somewhere right off the coast of Celebre. that we need to go and investigate. But right now it's hard for us to see there because there's just steam covering the entire area. So if you're able to give us any information, then we can promise that we'll do everything we can to make sure that Delterra and the others in the city are not harmed by, or are not harmed any further.
So what you feel as you provide this information isn't exactly words. It's this, like, measurement. Delterra said that he deals in, like, weights. And what it is he's taken all of this information about danger and about Delterra and connections and stuff, and sort of weighing how much energy that information would convert to if he needed to burn it in order to power himself to traverse extraplanar spaces. And he measures out in his other hand an equal amount of energetic information related to the location and sends it back to you. And suddenly in your head, you have a memory from earlier today, from like an hour or two ago, of being underwater, of seeing perfectly, like crystal clear for miles. You can see underwater, but you're in the harbor, and there's the ruined city of what used to be Celebre's lower city before the floods, before the ocean levels rose and turned it into the harbor. You see the bricks of the city start to sort of rumble and move and coalesce into a great serpent made out of these ruins of old stones that swims back and forth, gathering more and more of the ruined city to itself. And then it coils up around this volcanic vent that's spewing black smoke up into the waters. There's fumes of sulfuric vapor. It coils there for a moment, and then, sensing something, it slithers out and at a kind of frightening speed dashes in a direction and then comes back and coils back up again. You don't get a good sense of what had attracted it in that direction, only a sense of the damage that it had caused to an area of the ruined city over there. But yeah, that's what you see. Some kind of golem serpent made out of stones of the ruined city.
And the serpent sensed something else.
It sensed something, it went over and smashed it, and then came back. Yeah.
Okay, got it.
So it definitely is protecting that area like a nest.
Yep. Well, that's scary.
If that area is volcanic, we'll probably also need some ability to resist heat.
Pavan's got you there. Make you waterproof and fireproof at the same time. Now that's a worthy challenge.
I think that's actually given us enough information that I'm more confident with the water than I am with the palace. Because we don't know what's inside the palace necessarily.
Yeah, and it does sound pretty epic. Yeah, I'm down with going that route. That way we can kind of take advantage of like the various characters that maybe have a more narrow skill set across the board with like diplomatic characters. Mina can rock the boat. No pun intended.
From the intel you've gotten, it looks like somebody will have to lure the creature away from the vent and then keep it away long enough for another team to do their thing.
Who wants to be the bait? Does Henri know exactly? I guess obviously he didn't see it really, but could he get a sense of like how large the thing was that distracted the snake?
So you're getting an information dump directly from the Moon King, which means that your information is coming to you in like a hyper literal form. You're not seeing this is why you're able to see for miles, is because you're not actually seeing. You're just getting information about what's there. So the murkiness of the depth, the plume of black smoke coming out from the volcano is not impeding your understanding of the situation, as it's just raw data coming into your head. And in that raw data is that this creature has 90 hit points. You don't know what that necessarily means, except that like you kind of have a sense of your own health, and this creature has 90 of that.
The snake.
Yes. Made of stone.
Yeah.
Not indestructible by any means. It definitely can break, but yeah, breaking would be difficult, and it has 90 of whatever it is that's keeping it together.
Maybe we can sneak past it, guys. Try our sneak rolls. Francis does have invisibility. Rank 2. If we send the triplets down there. Well, I guess nonetheless, if we know we're going down there, we know part of our homework pre-planning is going to be to purchase or acquire potions for underwater breathing and also underwater not dying in boiling water. So maybe we can just ask for however 6 of those, I guess. Just assuming that maybe we need one for everyone who's in that party.
And just say, make them last as long as you can.
Yeah. 24 hours. 24-hour potion.
If we're not back in 24 hours, something bad happened.
Yeah.
Pavan has basically made a... it's one of those drinks that's like a big glass with a little shot glass you're going to drop into it. It's like, this is going to give you water breathing and fire resistance at the same time.
Oh, nice. Jaeger bombs.
Is it a water breathing potion and a fire resistance potion that he's just dropping into it? You don't know. But he says, you got to mix it right before you drink it. You don't want to mix it and let it sit. You don't want to drink them separately. You want to mix it, and in that moment when they first mix, drink it, and you'll be good.
Just flashbacks to poor life choices from my past.
That was a personal photo, right? It was a personal gift?
Yeah.
Hands aren't grabbing those fast enough is my biggest problem with that GIF.
Yeah, they need to get in there.
Yeah, dude.
Hey.
Like the theatric is great, but you realize what has happened here.
One guy goes for it, the other guy just claps.
Yeah, like, what are you doing? You got work to do.
So,
my assumption is, this does make a difference for the water stuff. I've been upgrading. Have I been building a new boat, or have I been upgrading the boat that I initially worked on? So, like, I had salvaged a boat and like fixed it up.
Yeah, there's that boat. And then
So I have 2 boats,
you got
right?
2 boats, yeah.
Okay, so that's what I wanted to clarify. So there is a note that there are 2 boats, which means there could be a distraction boat and a not distraction boat. And then I don't bring anybody else that can sail, I guess. But
If your boat requires a crew to operate, you're out of luck, though. You've just got the team you've got.
well, I guess that's what it takes to propel my boat, because the other boat was basically just like a paddle boat.
Yeah, so the question is, what is going on with your Magitech marble-powered boat?
It it's essentially like powered by the, what is it, the magic wheel.
Okay, yeah, so it doesn't need wind, right?
Right, yeah, it doesn't need wind, and
which means it's got no rigging, so you don't need sailors to man the rigging. You basically just need a helmsman, and then somebody to operate the cannons if you're going to be using them.
Right, but once it's stationary, the same person could be doing that. It just can't move anymore.
Totally.
Maybe we could lure the serpent up rather than fight it underwater.
Well, that's kind of what I figured with the boat. If the boat has cannons,
yeah.
I mean, I don't want to lose my boat, but like, I'm probably gonna lose my boat.
Hold the test run.
I'm a kid. I have a long time to make another boat.
Yeah, and that would basically be two teams: a dive team to lure it up, and then the boat. Unless the boat itself is enough of a lure. I guess we'll see.
How fast can the boat go?
It's the fastest boat on the water when there's no wind, and the slowest boat when there is.
Interesting.
It doesn't need wind. It's got a propeller.
Yeah, so if there's wind, it would be pushing it faster, right? But that doesn't provide any benefit.
Well, it sounded like the opposite. Isn't if there's wind, it's slower?
Well, no, it doesn't. The wind doesn't slow it down. The wind is what all the other ships need to go. This boat is unique in that it cannot be becalmed. Every other boat on this world relies on the wind in its sails. This is the first boat that has a propeller.
Hell yeah. I guess I was just wondering if it can outpace the snake. Which I guess we may not learn until it's too late.
I think based on that vision, I don't think it's outpacing the snake.
I mean, Henri probably has the miles per hour of that snake just downloaded in their brain.
Yeah, somewhere in there.
And it's probably just unfathomable is the miles per hour. You're not going to want to swim around that thing.
Now, the information you got does not indicate that it is being propelled supernaturally, so to speak. I mean, obviously the whole thing is a supernatural entity, but its propulsion is being done by wiggling. So it is being forced to obey some laws of physics in this. It's not just magically willing itself forward, it's magically moving in such a way to propel itself forward. And it is made of rock.
Yeah. But if we get to surface, we could just blast it with cannons. And cannonballs do a lot to rock.
Yeah. Or here's a fun option. Since we have two ships, if we can use the first one to go out and find a way to rig it so it can keep on moving in sort of zigzag ways to distract it. Once it starts trying to crush it or whatever, if we had rigged it with explosives.
Yeah, so we have a paddle boat and then basically a self-power boat that needs a helmsman. You could go. The paddle boat's essentially useless unless someone's paddling, right? It's not going to move. We could set the undirected, right? No helmsman, but the cannon boat. We'll call it the cannon boat and the paddle boat. The cannon boat could be moving on its own, and you could rig all the cannons to explode. Yes, back charge the cannons. Mina could do that. And then, yes, there's a paddle boat, but the paddle boat cannot be used, right, to continue movement like that.
Yeah, we could fly it to the main boat, but then that doesn't help our plan at all.
Yeah, you said that you might be able to do a quick thing. You might be able to fasten something to make an auto rower here.
Yeah, like Mina could potentially try to engineer something to do the rowing, but I feel like there's nothing going to be attracting about the rowing.
And here we come down to the issue of materials. What they have here for you to use is the kind of stuff wizards would have, which is sheets of parchment, high-value inks. They've got some book binding material, and they have some like large dowel rods that could potentially be carved into wands and staves. One of the rules about SAU's workshop is bring your own materials. They do not have a large supply of raw material that's not already in use for something wizardly. The Applied Thaumaturgy Guild, on the other hand, does. There's lots of raw material there. Also, there's lots of material at your shipyard. But it would just be you there, so you'd go there and make a quick roll. You wouldn't have a staff available. You wouldn't have a team of students eagerly trying to help you get shit done.
Well, we do have a team of students eagerly trying to plan this mission, so maybe we all go and work together to try and find what you're looking for.
Or at least like the water team. That's like their first thing they do.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
There's technically some material, but it might get some people at SEU really upset. Is you could take the books off of bookshelves and use that raw wood.
Were you saying use the bookshelf itself? Is that what you're saying?
There is no way the wizards are going to let you harvest books to try and build a wooden contraption. For one thing,
not the book itself. The books itself thinks it's on.
Oh, you want to research contraptions?
Talking about the bookshelf.
The shelving.
The shelving.
The shelving.
You said to use the wood shelving.
I did briefly imagine Wampy reshaping the books back into wood.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, that's also not how paper works. But in a wood shelving, actually, that's not a terrible idea. It depends on what you're trying to build. I don't think you're going to make any kind of automated machine out of that. You might make a machine, but it would be a machine you'd have to operate. It wouldn't have any kind of automation.
I mean, if we have anything datal, like, potentially Mina can add automation to it. But if we're dealing with the whole, like, bring your own
And
BYO magic artifacts.
Yeah, your automated ship is a prototype. Meaning it's currently the only one.
Do we also need to engineer something that would make some sort of noise or something to attract the snake? Or is that...
I was just planning on having Wampy, because I think the triplets are on this team. Just like druid magic illusion, some like distraction that lures it up with the water.
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea.
I also figure firing a cannonball directly at it would be somewhat...
Well, if it's all the way at the bottom of the water, it might not. It depends.
I mean, it's a magically propelled cannon blast.
It is.
Like the beads feed the cannons as well.
That's cool.
So it just depends. Like how powerful will that be? It's like the Crimson Guard shield, but it fires.
I think we would want
cannons.
the distraction to be away from the ship, because we don't want the serpent to attack the ship immediately. We want to unload cannons into it and hopefully do enough damage that we can handle its attack.
Oh right, I was stuck on the we were feedbacking the cannons and blowing up the ship route. If we're not going to do that,
it can always be a backup plan.
That might have to be pre-prepared.
To answer your question about the beads, if your cannons are not powered by powder and a ball, like if they're not traditional explosion-driven cannons, but are instead being powered by the beads, the answer to your question is one of spell circles. So one bead can generate a first circle spell's worth of energy. And so, if you are going to try to make these cannons, for example, equivalent to a wizard's fireball, they would need three marbles per shot, and you yourself need to have a daedal potential of 3 to even invent it. What is your daedal potential?
I mean, it was 2, but it might be 3 now. Do I have enough for 3?
You tell me. I don't have your. I'm gonna find it.
I think you do.
I've also wondered if Wampi could, maybe with some solves of magic, supercharge the marbles.
I had enough for 3.
There you go. You
So
could
I have
totally
fireball,
make those
magic beads.
effectively cast either fireball or lightning bolt equivalent things. They don't even need ammunition at that point. The ammunition is the beads, so you don't need cannonballs. You just put 3 beads in, set it to the form and shape of destruction you want, and and don't stand in front of it. Point away from face.
Think maybe a raid on the Applied Thaumaturgy Guild for that team as well might be worth it considering.
And the Applied Thaumaturgy Guild is nearby. They are on the. Let me mark their location here.
I mean, or the orphanage. Just raid the fridge.
Well, the idea of the Applied Thaumaturgy Guild is they literally sell these beads, so they've got to have insane amounts of stockpile.
Yeah, they hire. One of the things that young mages will do to pay for their tuition, if they're not on, like, you guys are on this like government scholarship program, but everybody else has to pay to get into the university. And what a lot of them will do is they'll learn just enough magic to go to the ATG and start casting the spells that make the beads. They just summon the beads into reality until they're worn out for the day. They get paid, and then they come back and do it again, and that's how they pay their way through college.
I also like to think that I've been stockpiling the beads since I've been building the ship around it.
If you've been building your ship around it, then you would have a stockpile of beads for testing and operations.
Yeah. So if I have a set amount, whatever that amount is, and then if I need to spend additional money, Mina can spend all her money to make sure there's more. Or we can use my current money as I don't really need it. So we can use whatever my current money is as a guide toward what she spent on it.
I was just going to think that we just steal a bunch of beads and expense it to the city.
Oh, she has like a decent amount of money. Is what is the other thing I was going.
And the project you're working on is a government-funded project, so you probably don't need to spend your own money on this. You probably do have a stockpile that they've acquired for testing purposes down there. When you get there, we'll roll to see what it is, because it's going to be a surprise. To everybody, even to me. I don't know the answer yet. The dice will decide. And I'm not going to do it with the normal D10s, because that's just you're gonna probably get the average. I'm gonna fire up like some kind of engine that will roll at me like a D30. So we just have like a crazy random swing of what it might be.
We need some percentile dice going.
Yeah, something like that. It's like it could be 98, it could be 17. Who knows? With all possibilities being equal.
But yeah, it is to your point. It is reasonable that we hit any of that on the way, like going to Orphanage, going to ATG, on the way to the harbor. I mean, that's the route.
Yeah. Like, we just go in and just grab a box or something of these.
You'll almost certainly want to bring combat characters, because the more stops you make along the way, the more golems you're going to face in the city.
That is amazing.
Yeah, I'm already like thinking, like I'm like placing all my characters. I'm thinking, what happens if I just make the backpack super heavy, and I give Gallista and I both the breathing potion, and I have the Gallista grapple the snake.
Gallista would love to fight that snake in hand-to-hand combat.
Gallista and I could be the distraction.
That could be interesting, and then maybe the ship is firing shots at it to like start chipping damage, like basically just like tag team it.
Yeah, or firing at the device that's down there.
We have a really tough character problem here, is because if Wampy's going, and then we took Francis on the water team, it would mean Trompy's going, which means we'd lose Leica. And if we lose Leica, we lose Callista.
Are the triplets willing to split up? Or is it stick together?
No.
Yeah, the triplets have to stick together, I think. These are scared, basically preteens who have been together through all this.
Also, the fact that the bard technically doesn't have to be with the Callista. It just makes Callista a bit more powerful.
I mean, can we argue that Radico will go?
A Radico would not be able to function outside of the shield.
Oh, fuck.
Maybe be incapacitated.
He'd have to spend all of his effort preventing himself from being incapacitated and wouldn't be able to do anything else on his turn. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Can you whisper God creation?
It's a performance check. It kind of requires an audience.
God creation podcast form.
Yeah. That's kind of what I was going for.
You may have the start of some really interesting twist on that for a future adventure, but in the current skill set of the current characters now.
All right, we're going to do this someday because it happened and this conversation happened. We are going to do podcast God Slayers. Like, or God imbued slayers? I don't really know what to say there.
Just a bunch of heroes who all listen to the same whisper podcast, essentially.
Yeah, it needs to happen. But until then, Leica and if Callista goes out, then I feel like Leica needs to be attached. We don't have to do that, right? You can not.
We don't have to bring Callista.
You don't have to do that. The advantage of Leica is that Leica can sing a song and just give Callista bonus dice to whatever she's doing.
Theoretically, though, we could send that crew with the light crew, which is the combat plus combat crew, and we could still get to experience that, just not against the snake. And then we just need to come up with a different plan for how we approach the snake situation.
Yeah, because Elros himself can cast powerful buff spells on himself, which can transfer on to Callista.
If the other triplets are going, then and that means Trompy is going with you guys.
You don't need the 3 dado potential to operate the cans, just to event it, right?
Correct.
To operate it, you just need to be able to roll marbles into a thing.
Yes, you need one operational hand.
If you get both your hands cut off, you can't use it anymore.
But it's totally fine if you get just one hand cut off, because you can still.
I mean, you can always get creative and like use your feet or something. Just squeeze the marbles between your toes. Slow your reload, but
there's one cannon in the back that is foot pedal operated.
Just gotta spit them in.
Which does bring up a question. The ordnance that you have these cannons using, now being magical, is that ordnance fired through the air, or is this like an early version of torpedoes where it sends it through the water? So presumably you're designing these to combat potential Corlanthe ships attacking Celebre on behalf of Aphthis. Which has not yet happened, but it doesn't mean it can't happen, which is why they're furiously preparing this fleet.
Yeah, I think my initial design was to have the 360-degree cannons, and then they were above water, and then there would, we're doing ship warfare, I would have at least one cannon, basically like below deck, that's still capable of the same stuff. So there's one cannon that's going to be firing out underwater.
All right. And what is the ordnance? What element of damage does it do?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know.
Fire can burn sails and rigging. Lightning, I mean, it travels really far. You'd be able to shoot maybe like through multiple ships.
How does that interact with water?
Yeah, you can't use lightning underwater, right? Without affecting all of the water, basically losing all accuracy.
Well, it's magic, so it can kind of do whatever you require it to do. But it could be bad for sailors that have fallen overboard. So it might, it might be considered a war crime to use it.
Well, also, like, when we're talking about using it on the ships, the thing that you'd be hoping for is the lightning to catch fire.
Yeah.
So, like, the only reason for lightning cannons, to me, is just if you want to kill a bunch of sailors.
That's why it would probably be a war crime. Ice would do quite a bit to stop ships from moving without damaging them. So if you're looking to do ship captures, then icing up the sides and inhibiting their ability to move swiftly would be a thing. You could just be raw kinetic force. Try and punch holes in it to get it to sink.
Am I locked to one ordnance?
I don't think you've had time to invent more than one, or to invent a switching mechanism the way the shields work yet. Not saying that in future adventures, maybe a newer version of the ship might have like settings and dials and stuff, so you can change out ordnance, or like you swap the front of the cannon to change what the spell is. But for now, since we're sort of retconning to say that this is what you've been working on this whole time, I'm gonna have you pick one and stick with it.
Oh man, in future adventures, like Mina would be taking out like 6 ships at a time, and each one would have its own ordnance.
Exciting.
Because they would all be controlled from the one ship. But that's tough. Yeah, it wouldn't make sense to have the lower cannon idea with fire. That just seems silly, like firing fire magic into the water.
You basically create steam clouds. It's an expensive way to cast fog cloud.
Yeah, which is useful eventually.
Useful, but you could also do that at a lower power level without actually having to put 3 marbles into it.
Yeah, I think you had it with like kinetic force is the closest to being like torpedo-like, but even when you're in the air, like when you're out above water, you're still going to be able to punch holes and stuff. Like it's going to have the same effect above water as it is below.
So they're basically cannonballs. They're just invisible magical cannonballs.
Yeah.
Cool.
They don't have secondary damage effects.
Are you ready for it? You ready for it? It's canon now.
So good.
You're welcome.
It needed to be done.
You can't change it. It's a canon event.
Cool. So yeah, you have a ship. It's as you just got to get some marbles, and you'll be able to use that to attack. So that's a good plan. So is that the plan then? Is you're going for the lightning, the radiance, and the steam, and ignoring the gold, correct?
I think so.
Cool. Now, you may have noticed that there is a new document called Initiative Order. I created this document by looking at all of the characters, measuring out the stats that they have that I believe are relevant to deciding who goes first in a turn, and I listed them here. Some things here should not be at all surprising, like Shari and Araxi being ridiculously above everybody else on the order. So, kind of consider this in your calculations as to who's going where, as I'm now about to start putting together in my document who's on which team.
Oh, poor Cry Leo. That's 3.
I'm really curious about the calculation. I've tried to like back solve it just from the numbers and what I know.
Do you want me to tell you, or just you want to keep back solving it?
I'm kind of enjoying back solving it actually.
Okay.
I'll ask when I'm out of idea.
Cool.
All right. So I think for my characters, unless the triplets want to go elsewhere, it makes the most sense for Ness to be on Diplomat team, Araxi on Combat team, and Wappy on Water team.
Definitely, yeah, the triplets will do the water. I'm conferring for Jackie as well. She's AFK.
Yeah.
Okay, which means Francis is on that team and Trumpy. Kristen, which of your characters is going on the other teams?
So I think I'm gonna send Zara on light and Henri to lightning.
Okay, so already I can see that all 3 teams have access to Whisper, presuming that Wampy improvises it. Oh, and Francis, yeah. So all teams have mages, all teams have access to Whisper. That problem is solved now.
Excellent.
Cool. When Jackie gets back from AFK, we'll figure out what her other characters are. Troy, some of your characters are obvious.
Yeah, I think Mina's going to the barracks, right? That's what we decided on. Just kidding.
I need my mouse back, please. Thank you.
I think it's kind of open. So if Mina's going to the harbor, but guaranteed. And then I think it's kind of open. Like, I was thinking it would be Chrisazar goes to the rail yard and Kofrik goes to the barracks, so that there's support for the barracks and combat for the rail yard, but I can be swayed in the other direction.
Well, then let's talk about Gallista. Where is Gallista going in all of this?
Yeah, I think that's super important.
That impacts your characters, Troy, somehow?
Wait, I think like we don't need as much combat wherever Callista goes.
Good point.
In melee, Gallista fights with a spear that's roughly the size of a telephone pole. And at range, Gallista has a bow that fires arrows that are the size of like ship-to-ship siege weapons, like actual like ballista bolts.
You mean Gallista bolts?
Sometimes I have very simple naming conventions.
Gallistas, ballistas. It seems like that makes sense to send Gallista to the combat plus combat.
It does. The other thing is, like, Gallista could just go with the diplomats and, like, make that combat thing almost trivial. But I think that we have enough coverage over there to at least get to the Petrish. So
Yeah,
combat could be probably the best, but I do want to say that the other one is an idea.
Yeah, because wherever Gallista goes, LRS has to go.
And I can't think of a single other person that we have access to that is worth taking over Gallista.
So here's a question for Jackie, if you're back. Where do you want to split your? Where do you want Bax to go?
Right, so I'm assuming Leica is assigned with Gallista's team, the Gallista team, and I'm assuming that Chompy is going with the triplets wherever they go. So in terms of Bax, do we have enough combat aligned people going to the barracks in order for Bax to go with the diplomatic team to provide physical protection for the team going to the railroad?
That is sort of the decision being made. There certainly are enough combat-capable people that can go, but I think Troy was interested in making sure that the group going to the rail yard has at least enough protection to make sure that the diplomats get there safely. Right now, that team is Nest, a very capable caster for magic combat, and Anre, who has crazy Moon King powers, which may or may not be combat related, depending on what happens.
I will say Nest's combat casting is Nest does have fireball, but it's very much leaned towards defense.
I'm going to go ahead and presume that Reggie is going with that group. I'm just going to put his name in. Just because Reggie, I don't think, would be able to contribute anything in any of the other groups. Whereas for diplomacy, Reggie is a badass.
And before Ed comes in, it insists that Reggie's going to combat come.
If Ed wants to retcon it, I mean, we're not going to start tonight, so with the next session, if Ed wants to change that, that's totally fine. I'm just kind of filling in the gaps here. Do you guys think that Shari would go with the water group because it's underwater?
I think that's very reasonable.
Yeah.
Shari also probably has quite a bit of boat skill.
A crazy amount. Shari potentially could captain that boat. Yeah. In fact, I'm fairly certain that Shari has actual piloting. Yeah, Shari has a piloting of 3. Shari is better at steering Mina's boat than Mina is.
I'm a shipbuilder, not a ship. What's the word?
Shipwright.
Sailor?
Oh, yeah.
No,
So-
you're not a
I was gonna say
helmsman.
driver.
Helmsman.
I was gonna say driver to be funny. Like mover. I'm
Helmsman.
not a ship mover. I'm a shipbuilder. Spoken like a true engineer. Build boats and I sink them. That's it.
And I think the real benefit of that boat is that even like a non-combat capable character can still deal damage via the cannons.
So with the Steam group, the only question now is which of Tice's characters is going with it. But I don't need an answer on that right away. I think it's probably better now to go back and look at the other two groups. So right now, heading towards Lightning in the shipyard, we've got Nest, Andre, and Reggie. Do you feel that's enough defense or enough combat capability, or do you want to put more in there?
You mean the rail yard, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what lighting it.
Right, okay. Up to you guys. I'm down to party. Bax is ready to rock.
Wait, Troy, did you decide what other characters do you have to decide between?
So I have Chrysazar, which is magic and combat. So, or like, I guess magic is combat, but magic and melee combat. And then I have Kofrik, which is more support, medicinal needs, or quick fix stuff. So I don't know how Kofrik will be, how useful he'll be until he's useful, kind of thing. Whereas Chrysazar is combat.
I think Kofrik's main usefulness is going to be when you get to whatever the artifact is. The ability to understand what it is and how to disable it is going to be... that's certainly going to be Trompy's forte with that underwater team, for sure.
Yeah, Kofrik's doing 5 engineering. If he needs to figure out how to take apart or do whatever to that device at the barracks, like, he can do it.
Can Kofrik like heal in combat?
As long as you bring some ingredients, yeah.
Yeah. If that's the case, I think that Kofrik might be best with the combat team, who can basically beat down the door and get Kofrik to the thing. But of course, the other one is a perfectly reasonable option as well.
Yeah, I think Kofrik can support in either capacity, right? Like, he can do either, so it's whether we have enough combat in the other one that we actually need more combat. That's kind of why I was apprehensive.
Well, what I'm thinking is that with the combat team, we're going to need somebody who can disable it, because Araxi ain't figuring that out.
That's true. So maybe Kofrik should guaranteed be going with the barracks team.
Yeah. I was thinking of while everyone's distracting the flying things at the thing, so just giving Glup some explosives in a backpack and just have him climb up the tower and just blow it up.
The
He can turn
downside
invisible,
is that
basically.
the city would be without their signal tower.
Yeah, there's a city hurt.
Azafu has learned a few things that maybe you could find out about from Miss Maybell after this is all done.
So looking at the angle of we need to have someone who can actually figure out the thing to dismantle it, do we have anyone on that crew for Lightning? Nest?
Well, I think lightning is the Petrish.
Oh, do we not need to disable something there?
If
But there's a reliance on the Petrish being able to do it, and they're on another class.
Oh, okay, cool. Just wanted to check because Henri is not going to be very good at that.
you don't know for certain, but you can presume that being as the Petrish are magical artifacts, that they understand magical artifacts pretty well. So once you can convince them that it's something that they should help you dismantle, they'll probably be pretty skilled at that. So Kofrik is going with the Radiance team, which means Crystalzar is going with the Lightning team, which means you've got some good combat there.
Yeah, that makes sense. No matter what other choices are made, I think that kind of made it make sense for me, or my characters regardless. So that doesn't actually pin where Callista or Leica or Bax should go.
This means that Mari is going to be going with the Radiance team. Because there's nowhere... Ed's other characters are already assigned, so just by process of elimination there. It's like solving a Sudoku.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say we need one of those mapping charts that say like these characters are going here. I'd also presume the character that plays as Malel would go to the combat place anyway.
Yeah. I was looking over the character sheet just to see like how combat capable this character is, and she's not going to be dropping any fireballs, but there may be a lot of magic missiles.
She also has the other thing covered because she has mend. Like Mari is a support for the combat.
Yeah, she's got mend, she's got light. Mend, by the way, that's not a cure. Mend is for repairing like objects.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It just might be useful when you're trying to you're trying to deal with a place that's being onslaughted with a bunch of stuff that is built from the environment that I don't know. I'm not metaing, but I'm just thinking of. Or I'm not trying to poke for information. I'm trying to think of the actual thing. Like we're dealing with a bunch of machinations made from the cityscape. Who says that parts that we're gonna have to walk on aren't there anymore?
I don't know what would happen if you tried to cast mending on a place that has pieces ripped off. If it tries to pull off the creature.
That sounds fantastic. You should be able to just mend the creature, and it should put it back into where it's supposed to be.
Like I said, Mari's a good choice for combat. Yeah, so let's see. That means we're looking at here. So there's 4 more characters that are to be decided, one of which is the pairing that supercharges Callista.
I think both options are very reasonable for that, so I guess it's just up to the character.
Well, the one that doesn't get Callista gets Bax and Glup, right? Or El... not Elros.
Kyleel.
Kyleel, yes.
Kyleel is also is a divine magic user and / healer.
Kyleel can actually heal you. So yeah, what do you guys want to do? Do you guys want to put Bax and Kyleel or Bax and Glup?
It seems like we might need more firepower on the light crew, with Kofrik and Mari being more on the supporting side.
Cool. I will do that.
Yeah, I don't know. It depends on also if Tice wants to as well, because we're trying to figure out where Elros and
Leica will
Gallista are
likely go wherever Gallista is going, because that's the opportunity to do barding.
And wherever Gallista goes, Gallista is going to do tremendous amounts of just raw combat damage.
Like the player me really wants to be on the back of Gallista while fighting a giant underwater serpent.
Yeah, listening in, what Gallista wants is to either fight the serpent or to go stand next to the king and fight the giant kaiju golem. But Callista's not in charge, and she understands that. She'll go wherever the bard says the best story is going to be.
Wasn't there a guy, like at a parlor, who said he had an underwater fight, or was it somebody? Somebody was telling a story. This was a while back. During this, I forget if it was me or if it was some other character that was talking about wrestling something in the water. Was that foreshadowing, Dave?
I began writing by writing this set of encounters, and everything else has been working backwards from that.
I guess that we don't know how it ends, but I do wonder what happens if Sapphire's was put back into the staff. It'd be major spoilers for Dave Talus, but I'm just
it would
curious.
be, and I'll tell you all about that after the campaign is done.
That's been what's running in my head. Like, what if Wampi made a different decision? Wampi was never going to make a different decision. That's a decision that was very ingrained to the character. But if it wasn't Wampi's decision, could have been very different. I think the straightforward answer would be to have her at the combat area.
Who?
Gallista.
Oh.
Have Gallista at the combat area. Just wreck shit.
+1.
And Elros has combat magic too, right?
Yeah, well, whatever he can think of.
So you'll have Gallista, fire and arrows, Elros, fire and spells, and Leica singing songs to make it all powerful. Alrighty, I'm going to go ahead and put that on the Radiance group as soon as I get my keyboard back from Not.
Plus, I think that means that we have Bax and Crystals are on the rail yard team. Yeah, I think that that's more than enough combat over there.
Now this makes me wonder if I want Kyleel underwater or if I want Glup underwater.
Is Kyleel good at combat?
He's good at supporting.
Or diplomacy?
Yeah.
Because that would also be helpful. Yeah.
Kyleel has healing magic too.
Yeah. Yeah, he's one of the more sympathetic characters.
Having healing on the underwater team and stealth on the rail yard team could be interesting. Just speaking strategically here. But also Glup is the Nanu, and having a Nanu on a water team is always a good thing, so...
Glup is going to have serious advantages to rolls. There's always going to be bonus pips added to rolls in the underwater team. The flip side of that is the underwater team is intentionally engaging with a creature that, like, your idea is, let's get it to come attack us to lure it away from its nest. So the idea that you're, like, going to take damage there, it's pretty clear. Having a healer would be useful.
Yeah, but I can also just take what I was going to say about the light and strap underwater explosives to the thing, and that won't be as much damage as if I were to blow up a pivotal part of the city, because I can become see-through in the water.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you don't cause a volcanic eruption, then the city will be fine.
I don't know if Wampi could calm a potential volcanic eruption, but they could certainly try.
But you could cause one. Easier to cause than to calm.
It is a lot easier. But it is Earth, and, like, it's rocks and stuff.
Actually, it's really easy to calm a volcano. You just wait. They'll run out of steam eventually.
Yeah.
What's Calder doing right now? Is he busy?
So yeah, Glup underwater and Kyleel part of the diplomats.
I think at this point of time, Caldur and Odeo are in Solace, but they're in occupied Solace, retaking Soulport from the Omnikinetics.
Yeah, because I know they, like, obviously caused the cold zone. So he was here before.
Yes, that was caused by a battle between Caldur and Malel. The battle lasted almost 10 seconds, and then they teleported away, and Delterra resolved their conflict. In that battle, the following spells were cast. Malel cast Magic Missile on Caldur. Caldur cast Conjure the Ocean into a Dome of Ice and send ice spikes from the sky in every direction at Malel. Malel cast Teleport. Caldur stepped into the astral plane and pulled Malel out of his teleport, smashing him into a nearby hill, and then Delterra intervened, and they stopped. The cold spot is actually the result of the teleport, as Caldur literally ripped a hole in reality directly into the elemental plane of ice to chase Malel mid-teleport.
Damn, that's pretty scary. Just literally ripping someone out of a teleport.
Yeah, he grabbed him by the leg as he was traversing the ethereal plane mid-teleport, and yeah, yanked him out of the spell.
Yeah.
You don't fuck with South characters.
They're so powerful and not at all prepared to interact with the North societal structures. Yeah.
I guess if Glup does go with that, Whoppy can always do druidic healing. That seems very reasonable.
Okay, so which group am I putting Glup in?
I think it's Team Steam.
Team Cannon. The Cannon team.
Which means Bax and Kyleel are on Team Lightning. All right. Well, I think you've got things sorted out. We'll see if there's going to be any alterations to the plan, but I'm glad we took a session to just work through that. Because if we were trying to do that on the fly and to then try and get like through one of the team's adventures right away, it would have been a little lengthy there, a little rushed. So in the end, it's all worked out for the best. And it's taken us about as long as one of our normal sessions anyway. We're 2.5 hours, so awesome.
Good.
We went back and forth a lot on like technicalities and also on the Gallista question.
And you did some research, got some better intel on the situation, so that's all good. That's good stuff.
Yeah, we gathered some info. It's important. The
talked
one
to-
thing is going to be if Ed drops in and is like, oh, by the way, 5 minutes, just this is what we should actually do. And it's like, shit. That's better.
I think Ed's characters. I think we guessed right on where Ed's characters are going to go.
I think so too. I do think it's possible that he would want Mari on the Steam mission to use Mend on your boat as your boat takes damage.
Yeah.
And Shari, while like Shari as the pilot of your boat is like the best helmsman you could possibly have. Shari's not incapable of doing like sneaking around kind of stuff.
Yeah, I was almost thinking like,
Well, she has morale and movement a lot as well, which is the other, like, she, like, holy crap, she has 4 leadership.
yeah. I was thinking like because Mari's the one with the sonomancy, right?
Yes, Mari's a Sonomancer. Shari is a boat captain, which is why the leadership is there. Like Shari has really good leadership, really good piloting.
Because the worst case scenario, Mari would be great for like 'cause every submarine needs sonar.
The only one that's super obvious for Ed's characters is Reggie. Reggie's definitely going diplomat.
That's going to be super helpful there.
Yeah, the more dice we have for the...
Reggie has a potential called Orphic, which just means the ability to speak.
Yeah, and if we're able to disable the 3 things, I can always just promise Gallista that she could just immediately run over to the to go help the king if she really wants to after it. Because the moment she disables the area we're at, she has free reign to go run over and try to go to fight something.
Well, she'd need you to come with her.
Yeah, of course, but that's after we disable the thing.
You may find that, well, you guys can decide what you want to do. Once you disable it, you might want to all meet up under the marketplace to assist in the final confrontation with whoever's the actual spellcaster down there.
Is that circle the like impenetrable shield zone in the map?
No, that's just how big the market is. It's a huge market. The impenetrable shield zone is really only probably about like 60 feet across. And it's underground. It's an impenetrable shield bubble around a little space of underground cavern.
Got it.
If you head down there, once you disable your devices, you'll see in person. It will probably not be instant for Delterra to teleport down there, so you guys will have a little bit of time to hustle on over.
Walpy is definitely, with the appearance at Sappers right now, interested in confronting Sappers.
Yeah, well, if we have Wampy, we unlock the special dialogue.
That is basically what is happening.
The secret dialogue.
The secret dialogue, if you have Walpy talk to...
We did all this work to make sure we get the secret dialogue.
Oh crap, we forgot Wampy. I guess we have to reload our save file and bring Wampy for this.
Yeah, I mean, Wampy has to make
Wampy
it,
survives.
I guess.
Wampy is planning to turn into a little frog, I think, or maybe not. Maybe just
No.
swim.
Wampy is planning on creating a drag distraction to lure it up.
Yeah. So Wampy's going to intentionally be luring about a giant sea monster, made of magic and rocks. Work hard to keep Wampy alive.
That's what the cannons are for. Cannons keep people alive.
Actually, they're supposed to do the opposite.
Out of curiosity, because this will come up when you're firing cannons, do literally any of your characters have marksmanship?
Araxi does, but Araxi is not there.
All right.
Wampy does not. I nearly gave Wampy marksmanship.
Definitely a no for me.
All right. This is going to be some interesting cannon shots.
Yeah,
I'm
Gluff is not going to be in the ship.
Wampy does interestingly have a bit of labor for reloading the cannons.
Hey, there you go. Good thing they're not heavy cannonballs. They're like little marbles. It's still labor, but just different kind of labor. It's like reloading the staples in an office stapler kind of labor.
Yeah. And how hard would it to get explosives to blow up a device, especially ones that work underwater?
Alrighty, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. We'll end the session here, and we'll pick up next week. Hopefully Ed will be back with us, and we can see how this begins to end.
Yeah.
I'm hopeful that we can get through, like, maybe 2 of the missions in one set. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. Alright, have a good night.
Good night.